let's talk about this, man. We have to talk about the other side. We talk about the quarterback, Jaxson Dart. He left the game with a potential injury, right? And that was coming off of a fumble also while running the football. The question now for Jaxson Dart is, does he have to change his style of play to survive in the NFL?
I think we need to look to another rookie phenom from last year and the other one prior to that. CJ Stroud out with a concussion. You talk about Jaden Daniels and his style of play. And I think Jaden Daniels is a cautionary tale for Jaxson Dart, right? And you heard that get mentioned in the broadcast that Brian Dable has basically told Jaxson, you cannot take the hits you're taking until we get to the red zone. Okay. Then I'm letting you free for all. You're playing with fire, Brian. And I get it. It's hard to stylistically keep a quarterback from being the person that he is. It's the same problem the Commanders have with Jaden Daniels, because part of what makes them so special is doing all those things. But I heard this criticism of Caleb Williams all last year, and it's amazing to me that I do not hear the same criticism of both Jaxson Dart and Jaden Daniels. The off-script special stuff is not what wins in this league on a day-to-day, consistent basis, year over year. You have to play the position and do the things that for the history of the NFL, you've always had to do. You got to stand in the pocket and make throws and process. And the special off-script stuff is fun to watch, but it's not the stuff that wins in this league on a week-on-week basis. That stuff that we were watching early on this year, those fun wins. Look at the box scores. He had thrown for 112 yards in a victory that they scraped by, basically, in Jaxson Dart. That's not a sustainable way to win in the NFL. It's just not. So the answer to your question is yes, Keith. Look at Jaden Daniels. That is a cautionary tale. That is not a winning recipe. You have to do certain things as a quarterback to win in this league. And Jaxson Dart just hasn't done them yet. Play the position the way it needs to be played. And I get it. You don't have a ton of options out there. You've got Cam Scatterboo hurt and Malik Neighbors. That doesn't mean you can't learn the basic fundamentals of things you need to do. And Brian Dable did this with Josh Allen. He taught Josh Allen some of those things that Josh used to do a lot of that same off-script stuff that would get them in trouble, and he had to learn how to play the position at the highest level. And that's the stuff that Jaxson Dart and Jaden Daniels, quite frankly, both need to learn. It's what Ben Johnson's been doing with Caleb Williams.
I'm gonna take it in this direction. Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Cam Newton, those were true dual threat quarterbacks coming out of college, entering the NFL. Jaxson Dart was never in that bucket, and he's trying to adopt this game of being a dual threat quarterback in NFL when that wasn't even what he did at Ole Miss in college, right? And all of those dual threat quarterbacks, we've always said what? Injuries, right? You can come upon injuries, and we've seen it happen with all three of those quarterbacks that I just talked about, and then that they need to develop from the pocket. I think that New York Giants fans and even fans of Jaxson Dart got really excited because he was a new energy into this program, right? Into this franchise, and the future looks bright. But I believe thus far, Jaxson Dart already has, I believe, 5 to 6 games where he's ran for over 50 yards rushing, right? That's concerning. He had over 60-yard rushing against the Chicago Bears and didn't even finish the game. So he has to change his style of play, because I think for him, when you talk about on the scale of being a good athlete, great athlete, elite athlete, he's an above average to good athlete for a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
He's not special like Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels or the Cam Newtons. And so the thing is that you're not going to make those people miss in the open field. You're going to get hit. You're going to get hit a lot. So he has to start developing from the pocket, and that needs to be the conversation for the New York Giants coaching staff, because they have to protect this young man from himself.
The other thing, too, the guys you're mentioning, right? Cam Newton, body type wise, not
Totally,
at all
yeah,
like
totally
Jaden
different.
Daniels or Lamar Jackson. Those other guys, Cam Newton was a one of one. When you talk about the physicality, Josh Allen is much closer to Cam Newton than those other guys as far
100%.
as the physical way he played football and his body type and just being able to take the hits. When you're talking about being as big as those guys, It's much different than Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has become a pocket passer. Lamar Jackson has become they have totally evolved his game and the way that he plays football. You have to look no further than what the Baltimore Ravens have done than for what you should expect to see happen for Jaden Daniels with the Commanders and Jaxson Dart, even on a greater scale, because he's not as good as an athlete as those guys are. And he can't, that's not part of his game. Like you said, when you were evaluating him coming out of Ole Miss, that wasn't what you were looking at. You weren't looking at him. I was going to say, was that the thing you discussed as part of why you liked him? Or what were the things that stood out that you're not seeing now?
Yeah, no, being a high-level athlete or a dual-threat quarterback was never part of Jaxson Dart's draft profile. And I don't know where this came from, right? That now I'm going to get to the NFL and run around and decide to lower my head and run people over and things like that, thinking that it's going to result in one wins, but also me staying healthy. And I think that's the part that they need to hit on. And New York Giants fans don't buy the fool's gold in the sense of the fact of Jaxson Dart could be a really good quarterback prospect. The fool's gold is thinking that he's going to be able to do that game in and game out. Cam Scatterboo is the running back, right? He's the guy that can lower his shoulder and run through defenders. You want your running back to do that, not your quarterback, because it will result in injury.
It's just, it's been wild to watch the rise and the excitement, right? And I get it. The New York market as a whole, when you talk about between the Jets and the Giants, were desperate for anything positive that they could possibly grasp onto. And you had this Cam Scatterboo, Jaxson Dart, kind of they're pit bulls and they love fighting. But like, it's fine for your running back to do that. It is not fine for your quarterback to do that. That is not a sustainable way to play and win football games. And you guys know this because the guy who won you 2 Super Bowls is a statue, Eli Manning. That was the opposite of what Eli did. And I'm not saying Jaxson can't scramble around and it's a part of his game that is nice to see the ability to make things happen. But he's got to be able to stand in there and make the throws and process and be able to win at the high level, or they're not going to win football games long term. So we will see what happens here. I would like to see, hopefully, Brian Daboll continue to evolve this guy. He's shown that he can do it, but is Jaxson going to fall into bad habits? I think they're flirting with that. You got to make sure he doesn't continue to do this the rest of the football season because it's really hard to break those habits once you build them.
Yeah, and I think that you want to make sure that he's also learning the game the right way, right? That he's not just resulting to running because he's not, kind of seeing the field the right way. He's not going through his progressions, and it's like, oh, cool, he ran for a touchdown, but how many open wide receivers did he potentially miss working through his progression? So I think that's the part that they want to turn to and start to try to understand at a higher level for Jaxson Dart.
Well, it's why we were hoping that Jaxson would get a lot more time, right? That they would not rush to get him out there. And at the time, that first game, it looked like, wow, what a great decision. But now if we look back and we give the 30,000-foot view, was it the best decision to put him out there?
Yeah.
For the amount of wins you have, for now him being injured and was it worth it? Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatterboo not in that. We knew Malik was not going to be there. So it's really tough for me because I know in the moment everybody wanted to be excited, but it was short-lived. It was very short-lived. And that's what happens when you got a coach that's fighting for his life and it's not on the same timetable as the quarterback. Maybe the right thing for Brian Daboll, but probably wasn't the right thing for Jaxson Dart and his development long-term.